Act, which taxed the colonies here in America in order to keep the East India Company afloat. On this day in 1775, 2 years later, as a result of that tax, Americans captured Fort Ticonderoga from the British. I thought it was appropriate, seeing the budgetary issues that we're facing, to remember that today in history. It's a pretty important day. But there's a light at the end of every tunnel, because also on this day, Winston Churchill succeeded Neville Chamberlain as the Prime Minister of Britain. And that was a good day for Britain. And I know that we'll have a good day in the future. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the case of an emergency, there are emergency exits to the rear of the chamber or go out to the left, downstairs, and out to the parking lot. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Krusell?
Here.
Mr. Peabody?
Present.
Mrs. Ungary?
Here.
Mr. Ludwig?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mr. Grady?
I am here.
Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Sirard?
Here. Do we have any board guests?
We do not.
Superintendent's report.
We don't have our student representatives, but there may be information in your packet which they've submitted. The Lego celebration is tomorrow evening at the Stowe School. They're busy setting up, so we'd like to have you all come over and check that out. The Junior National Honor Society induction is Thursday night. We have a transition night coming up, and several, as you know, this is the season of events, so we'll be going straight through. There'll be lots of events. Check your calendars in May and June, culminating with graduation on the 22nd and 23rd of June. An awful lot going on, a lot of great ways to celebrate. It's usually a very exciting time of year because the budget's usually behind us, but as Chairman Sirard said, the budget is not quite behind us yet, but we hopefully will have that happen pretty soon. That's what I have for you.
Thank you. Do we have any audience tonight? Board member comments. I'm going to start with Ms. LeBlanc and work to the...
I have one quick comment tonight. We got a email today from Mr. O'Connell, and I asked him if I could read this tonight, and he said that would be wonderful. He said, the new Enfield High School online school store is up and running. We are currently taking pre-orders for delivery in September. Click here to check out current items. We will be updating our items throughout the year, so check back often. Is there a way we can get that link on the website? Are we able to do that, or... I went out to the online store and they have a bunch of Eagle sweatshirts and T-shirts, and I think that's a great idea. I can't wait to place my order because I tend to go a little bit overboard with that stuff, so I'm going to have tons of Eagle stuff. Also, I'm just looking for a follow-up to my question I asked 2 weeks ago about how we put conditions on the vote for the releasing of Fermi, and where do we stand on that? If that was supposedly illegal, were we allowed to put conditions?
As I recall, and I don't have it right in front of me, we did get the ruling from the town attorney, and the town attorney basically said that the council would not be responsible for meeting those conditions. They could walk away from them, but they could accept the school when the board gave it to them. But they really said they can choose whether to accept it with conditions or not.
Right, so I think that there's a misconception that if they don't meet the conditions, the building would come back, but it won't.
Once you give it to them, it's theirs.
Theirs, right.
But I think your plan was not to give it to them until the conditions were met,
Right,
which you're free to do.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Mr. Neville.
Yeah. Tina stole my thunder here on Corey O'Donnell's thing. I looked at it, the stuff that they've done. The kids have done a great job. And it's not just Corey, it's DECA. And, you know, just putting that together, what a great transition move it is. And I think both for community spirit and for school spirit. And I think with the transition, what a great way to do that and have it all delivered to the kids in September or prior to the opening of school. So, well done, and keep up the good work.
Ms. Thurston.
Just one comment. I already beat you. I already did my shopping online.
Thank you, Ms. Thurston. Mr. Grady. Thank you, Mr. Grady. Mr. Cruzell.
I just want to thank Barbara Crowley for for winning that contest for our Safe Grad. And a lot of, she did put a lot of effort into that, and thank you for all the people for voting. So we beat out Manchester. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cruzell. Mr. Peabody.
Thank you. I got a couple things. First, I want to just give a shout out to Two Moms on a Mission for running an outstanding vendor fair at Henry Barnard last weekend. That's a group, along with the next group I want to mention, that really helped bring our schools to become part of our community, and they become a center of our community. 2 weekends ago, I had the pleasure of sitting out in the freezing rain for the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame golf tournament. But the good news is I got to meet Steve Nelson, all-pro linebacker for New England Patriots back in the day. I'm sure most of the people other than Tim would not remember him because it was a long time ago, like in the 70s. But what the Enfield Hall of Fame does, Athletic Hall of Fame does, is they raise money for scholarships for our scholar athletes. And that scholarship means a lot to parents because a lot of them don't understand the cost of books and other incidentals when you start off. So that $1,000 or $1,500 really helps out certain kids to get what they need to start off. I also went over to Hale this last Friday and toured the school and specifically paid attention to the kindergarten program. And one of the interesting things about kindergarten, all-day kindergarten, yes?
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
I smiled when you said you went to go watch kindergarten.
Oh,
I just,
That's his
all right,
grade
I want to
level.
look forward and not,
it's okay.
I was just listening to what you said.
Grade level.
All right.
That's why you're smiling.
Okay, it is my grade level. Actually, I flunked. But what they do is pretty neat. It is an all-day program, and it's not an all-day babysitting service. What these kids do, and I couldn't believe it, they write little books, storybooks about various topics, about feeding a dog or conversing with a Board of Ed member. No. So it is a viable curriculum program that the kids do need in order to prepare themselves for first grade. I would like to get a shout out to Mrs. Connolly and Mrs. Martin, who are running the Enfield High Safe Grad tag sale coming up this weekend. Please go over and help out Enfield Safe Grad. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Ms. Ungary.
I wanted to congratulate also Barbara Crowley in getting that extra money for our Safe Grad. That's wonderful. Also, I want to give a shout out for Hazardville Memorial. They have a lot of fundraising efforts going on. Their Tupperware fundraiser ends tomorrow, so any last-minute people want to get their orders in. Also, they're having their fun run on May 21st, and that's from 7:30 to 11 a.m. And you can walk it if you like. You don't have to run. So that's it.
I don't run.
Thank you, Ms. Ungary. Mr. Ludwig.
I'll be brief. I had the pleasure of watching the JFK Drama Club this weekend. Did a fantastic job with The Lion King. Again, I think, when we look around town, and again, no matter what your activity is or what your sport is or what you may be into, there's a lot of great things happening in this town with the kids. The kids represent themselves fantastically. The play was great. I mean, I know they've been working since, I think, November of this year. They did a great job. The place was packed. Again, there's a lot of good things going on in town that aren't, again, very costly. That, again, if you want a Saturday afternoon, you're not doing nothing, you don't want to go watch a sport. Plenty of great games down at the Shaker Field for soccer. Tons of Little League baseball games going on in town. Again, we have some very talented kids in this town. And again, I want to thank the JFK Drama Club for inviting me. I had a blast. I saw some of the kids I used to coach who are now actors as opposed to athletes. And again, I think I just said there's a lot of talented kids in this town, and the more events you go to, they play hard, they compete, and they actually have some fun. Imagine that. So again, I just want to say it was really good experience. The kids did a great job, and anyone who saw that show, I think probably feels the same way. So again, I think it was. I want to thank the folks for the invite.
Thank you, Mrs. Ludwig. Happy belated Mother's Day to all of our moms out there. Again, I want to come up to back with Mr. Cruzel's comment about Barbara Crowley. That was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I know I voted as well. And I think we're going to leave it at that. So, moving on, unfinished business. Transition update. Dr. Schuman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple items. If you've been by, and I'm sure the building committee folks will tell you, the steel is up for the music facility, the music wing over there, and so things are starting to move along. In our monthly transition meeting at the beginning of the month with Amar and the folks who are on the project working, they still assure us that they're on time and we'll be ready to go. We'll make all our deadlines and be ready to open in the fall, which is good. A couple of issues we're working through. One is technology. Obviously, the purchase of the technology for the World Language Labs and the computer labs is still something I know the committee's working on. And more recently, connectivity for the Head Start building has been an issue because of the steam wing, and we've tried to wirelessly send the signal from Enfield Street School. That wasn't working out too well. It's not working out too well from the steam wing. The latest thought is to run a hard wire from Enfield High School over to the building. They're exploring that now, so that their connectivity has just been sporadic and it hasn't been reliable. So we're going to try to figure that out in the next week or two and then get that taken care of. And the other issue that we're working through are the gas lines, the natural gas lines to the labs. Because of the distance of the run and the size of the pipes, I guess what's happening is the chemical that's put in there that gives it the rotten egg smell is becoming diluted, and therefore the smell is not getting to the end users, and that is a potential problem because the gas could be on and you can't smell it. That's why the gas company puts it in there. So they're looking at a variety of different solutions, some of which you can put devices along the pipeline to feed that more of the material in. They could leave a Bunsen burner at the end of the run on a regular basis, which would burn, I think they said something like 10 cubic feet an hour, and that would be enough to keep the gas flowing. So they're looking at a bunch of different solutions to figure out how to make sure that anytime you turn any one of the gas lines on, that smell is there and pungent so that it gives warning to the people who are using it. They're talking to Mr. Daig this morning, and they're confident that they will find a good solution for the problem. They just haven't picked one yet. They're working with the gas company and the designers and the engineers and everyone to get that fixed up. So those are the few items that they're working through right now.
Thank you, Dr. Schuman. Item 10B, receipt of and action upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools concerning teacher contract non-renewals in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 10-151.
Okay. As it looks, as you well know, the state legislature will go back into session Thursday. We're not sure when they're going to come up with a budget. Some people have said it will happen this week. Some said it will go into next week. Some said it won't even get done by the end of next week. The way that your budget is now set up is it's contingent on the state finishing their work and then the town council taking up the results and making a final decision and giving you a time to a number. The town council is scheduled to meet next Monday. If everything is done, we would hope they finish that. They're not scheduled to meet after that until June. I would think that if something happened in Hartford, they would schedule a special meeting to give you guidance so you know what to do. But in the interim, we've been looking at all the scenarios as best we can figure it out, and we have about 80 non-tenured teachers non-renewed at this point. We don't see a scenario where we will lose more than 25 of them. Worst case scenario, we could lose up to 25 of them, but that still leaves 55 that we know we're going to need to bring back. I'm asking the board to give me permission to bring them back as I see necessary over the course of the next several weeks, especially we'll be looking at the hard-to-fill position and people we've got significant amount of time invested in that we know that if they go and they are marketable and leave us, we will not only have a difficulty filling that, but we'll also lose the investment we have in their expertise and building their capacity. So I don't have a list of names. What I'm asking for is permission to bring them back as we need to. In the event, were I to go too far and bring too many back, you still are allowed for budgetary reasons to non-renew them. Well, you won't non-renew them. You'd have to terminate them at that point. So if I were to overstep and say I brought back more than I should, I would come to you and say, now we need to get rid of people. I won't do that, but just so for your information, you still can do it. I'm not locking you into a situation you can't get out of. The only thing that would change is those individuals would then have an opportunity to come here and say to you, why did this happen? And you'd tell them the superintendent made a mistake and we had to terminate you. And that would be perfectly legal and allowable. But you would avoid that if you didn't do it. But I just feel that we're getting reference calls on some of our people. We know these folks are all looking for jobs, and we want to start to bring back as many as we can up to where we feel it's safe.
Mr. Neville?
I have no issue with that, because I know the horror show that there is if we lose the staff that we've invested so much in, and we have such quality staff. Process-wise, what do we have to do? Do we have to suspend the rules and add another item to the agenda, or can we take it up under this thing and make a motion to give you that leeway?
You can make a motion right here, because receipt of an action, if any, upon the recommendation of the school. And so you're acting, you're continuing your work on what you did before. The last time I brought it to you, I gave you a list and said, I think you ought to vote to non-renew all these folks.
Right.
And now your motion can be to allow me to bring them back as I feel confident that our budget will allow it.
Mr. Chair, are you comfortable with it, putting a motion on the floor now?
I'll entertain the motion now.
I'd make a motion that we give the superintendent the authority to bring back people as he deems necessary and with the current budget situation.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neville, seconded by Mr. Peabody. Any other discussion? Sensing none, Kathy, roll call.
Mr. Krusell,
4.
Mr. Peabody,
Affirmative.
Mrs. Zongaier,
Yes.
Mr. Ludwig,
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Grady,
I say bring them all back, but yes.
Mr. Neville,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston. Yes. Chairman Serard.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I don't think we'll make everyone happy, but you will definitely make quite a few people happy tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Item 11, new business. 11A, approval of the school readiness grant. Dr. Schuman?
Okay. This evening, we have two guests, Dawn Homer, and I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, but Bouthiette, and Karen Weslisa. And they are here to talk to you about the school readiness grant. Dawn and I spent some time. Dawn is our new Director of Social Services, just coming on board, been here 6 weeks. She's here to meet with you. But we had a great conversation this afternoon about lots of different ways we want to continue the work we've been doing and explore new ideas for social services to work with the school department in supporting our families and our children. But tonight they're going to talk to you about the school readiness grant, something you've approved before, but it does require board action for them to move forward. Ladies, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Go ahead.
So I would like to thank you for the invitation. I'm trying to get out and about as much as I can in these first couple of weeks, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am kind of the new kid on the block, but I had experience with the school readiness grants from the legislative side when we passed it and did all the budget work, so I'm familiar with the theory. Now I get a little more close to the practice. The staff is passionate about the work they do. They're fabulous with the kids. We have a wonderful program. It's well recognized at the state level. If there are any specific questions, I may yield my time to Karen because she knows it from the ground level up. And being the new kid on the block, I'd rather have the experienced person talk. If there are any questions I can't answer, I'm happy to go back to the staff and get the answers for you by tomorrow.
Well, you all know that as chair of KITE oversees the school readiness grant. We monitor it, and at every monthly meeting, we also do a status of the slots and where we are with quality enhancement. So any specific questions, of course, I can answer.
Mr. Neville?
How much is involved in this, and when does it start?
Well, we're applying now.
Okay.
And so, historically, we get almost $300,000 from the state for 30 slots. 281,000 of that is the competitive grant process, and 4,330 of it is for the quality enhancement.
I also just wanted to make a note that because the state budget is a little bit delayed in passing, that the State Department of Education has notified us that the grant deadline has also moved back because they're hoping to know what they can appropriate at the state level for us. So rather than having a deadline at the end of this month, it's going to be the beginning of June.
I didn't even want to ask this question, but knowing the budget is, and it's hard to figure out exactly what they're touching, because they seem to be touching everything. Are they touching this in terms of, looking at that in terms of potential cuts?
The Office of Early Childhood has pretty well confirmed that for now, as much as we know, it's there.
Okay.
You know, none of us here can guarantee anything, but today, it's there.
Right. There's more question about the quality enhancement money because that doesn't directly affect the impact on the children. And
Right.
so there's been a little bit of a rumor that there may be a little cut there, but nothing that we probably can't absorb.
Okay.
And relative to how much we get, that is really a
Yeah.
relatively small amount of money.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Ludwig?
Yeah, I was asking about the quality enhancement, but I heard that there's some stuff there. So what does that specifically fund?
It's really professional development, capacity building. The KITE group comes together with the leadership team, and they decide the priorities for the coming year. So this year, we are going to do a small competitive invitation for folks to tell us how they'd like to work with our family home daycare providers. And that's an initiative that's been off the ground for many years as well. So we are in the process of gathering those proposals together, and then the leadership team will get together and decide what we want to fund and if we have enough money to fund the proposals.
So if that is reduced or cut,
We just can't.
you just can't do this
Yeah.
program, right? But it does, but the overall program is still funded, or, right?
The
so
overall, the school readiness slots are funded. The quality enhancement, sometimes we can juggle some of our kite funding and
Right.
participate in that, but the competitive part of it, the $280,000,
Got it.
that stays.
Okay. And sorry, this is a dumb question. Are these all Enfield kids, or is it regional?
These are all Enfield
All
students.
Enfield, right. And you have no problem every year filling those slots?
We actually have waiting lists on almost all
Really?
our programs.
Always have.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. LeBlanc?
I just want to say welcome to Enfield.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you to Karen for always being very involved in early childhood education in our town. So, thank you both.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Peabody?
Yeah, thank you for the conversation today. I appreciate it much. Appreciate the work you do, and look forward to a long, prosperous relationship and helping our kids get ready for their educational journey.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Anybody else? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Welcome to the community.
Thanks.
Do we have to make a motion to approve it?
I'll entertain a motion to approve the school readiness grant.
Motion.
Point of information, is it approving them to apply for it, or?
It's approving the application.
Clear on that, that's, okay.
So do I have a motion to approve the application?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. LeBlanc, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Any discussion?
Sorry, just a quick question. So we're approving the application? Is there another, so once they get the application, do we have to reapprove, or is that once, if they get it?
They'll submit it if we get the grant.
Oh, got it, okay, yeah. I'm just making sure.
Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Krizel?
4.
Mr. Peabody? Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Ludwig?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
4.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Serrard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Board committee reports, item 12A, Building Committee. Oh, I skipped one, excuse me. Back up, 11B, fiscal year 2016-17 school calendar revision. Dr. Schuman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, item 11B, there you have an updated school calendar. This stems from our discussion at the last meeting of moving the middle school start day back 5 minutes, the 3-5 start day back 5 minutes, adding a 2-hour delay instead of a 90-minute delay, and making the adjusted changes as we go down below, how that would impact the different levels. You made no changes to the actual calendar itself. The only thing we talked about were the start times and the delay times in the event of inclement weather. But it does require a board vote so that we can put at the bottom of the document, it was revised again on today, and that will become the official calendar going forward. So it requires you to make a motion to revise the calendar to the document that you have.
Do I have a motion
So
to, motion made by Mr. Ludwig, seconded by Mrs. Thurston.
Sorry, one dumb question.
Any discussion? Mr. Ludwig?
Did a lot dumb. So if we go to a 2-hour delay, sorry if this is an obvious question, does it take away your flexibility if you ever want to do a 90-minute delay? Is it one or the other, or can you still do?
No, it's one or the other.
or the other.
It's the 90-minute goes away, and we only, if I make a decision to delay the opening of school, it'll be 2 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. LeBlanc?
This is more of just an observation, but I just had a heart attack. My heart stopped for a minute because I have a kid graduating next year, and I don't know how that's possible. I circled the date, June 20th. It just clicked in my head right now when I saw your calendar, so just more of a comment. Can't believe it. Why aren't they in kindergarten? Like, oh, do we have to make a motion?
The motion has been made. Is there any other discussion? I just have one question. How does, just because we're transportation and buses, and how does that impact the parochial schools and the CREC and
Well, CREC is a whole separate transportation situation. Their buses can run on their schedules. And the parochial schools, we run their separate buses, so they could choose whatever times they want as well. Normally, if I call a 90-minute delay, they go with a 90-minute delay, so we'll inform them that we're using a 2-hour delay, and then what will come out will be a 2-hour delay. And I would think they would adopt it, but if for some reason they don't, they can do what they wish.
I wanted a clarification because I know it's all kind of intermingled there. And
Although you provide the busing for them, it's separate buses, so they can run on their own schedule.
Okay. Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Krizel?
4.
Mr. Peabody? Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Ludwig?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Grady?
4.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Chairman Sirard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, item 12A, Building Committee.
Defer, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
You weren't there. I was deferring to you, and you weren't there. We did this, well, we got the gym,
Yep.
finally. We did a tour of the gym after the meeting, and it's fabulous. I'm for sure people have seen it now. And it was just a lot of change orders and approvals, really. There was nothing really came up. There was a question on that block schedule that Wendy had, and we gave her a copy of the schedule, and she was going to go over it and see if she had any questions, so we'll leave that at that, and that's about it. It was a very short meeting.
Very good.
And there's a meeting this Thursday.
Right.
Okay.
Just as a point of information, you also noted in the activities that were taking place this Thursday that the National Junior Honor Society is going to be there on this Thursday. Do you know the time of that by any chance?
7?
It's 7? Okay. In the auditorium, I assume. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Item 12B, Policy Committee. Mr. Ludwig?
I just wrote, we met today, the policy committee, and we will have for the next meeting an update on truancy and absenteeism that's mandated through the state. We went over a proposal today. I think each board member will get it sent to them. If we'll get a copy, so please look it over. We'll have a first and maybe second reading next board meeting. And we'll be also scheduling an updated policy committee meeting in early June, because we have some state mandates that we have to get to you folks. But other than that, that's it for policy.
Very good. Any other committee reports? Sensing none, moving on. Item 13, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes, April 26, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Or passed? Approval of accounts and payroll.
Nothing.
Correspondence and communications. Ms. LeBlanc?
Nothing.
Audiences. Do we have a need for executive session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion going to executive session?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Kruzel, seconded by Ms. Ungary. All in favor? We are currently in executive session. Thanks, folks.